Hi, I'm Laura Askell. I'm the Ag Ed Farm Manager with Metro Parks of Butler County. And today we're going to be at Chisholm Metro Park at the Chisholm Historic Farmstead area, which is located at 2070 Woodsdale Road, Trenton, Ohio 45067. And most people think that by the end of the summer, our flowers that are in our flower beds, maybe in our meadows or in the woodlands, are done blooming. But that is far from the truth. In fact, we've got many flower species here at Metro Parks of Butler County that don't bloom until the end of the summer, like in our prairies. Insects play a very important role in pollinating these plants. And we all know about the beloved monarch butterfly and the sweet buzzing honeybees that are very important pollinators. But this video is going to be focused on our overlooked or unloved pollinators that many of us may not be that familiar with. Let's go see what we can find out. Chisholm Metro Park has two sections to it, and today we're going to be at the historic farmstead area, which has the gardens and also has farm animals too. Do you recognize what is flying all over these gorgeous Shasta daisies here blooming at Chisholm? Usually you would find these insects down at the barn bothering the animals. So why are they on these flowers? Believe it or not, these flies are helping to pollinate the flowers so they can produce seeds for the next generation. How do you tell the difference between a fly and a wasp and a bee? Generally, flies have one pair of wings, and bees and wasps have two pairs of wings. Flies are usually darker, sometimes shiny, robust, and have big eyes. Some of them are very hairy, too. They are the main pollinators of those not-so-sweet-smelling flowers, what we call putrid flowers, and plants that don't have nectar guides. Here's a picture of a pawpaw flower that is pollinated by flies here at Chisholm. Now, on a little side note, there's a small fly called a midge, which should be revered by chocolate lovers. Chocolate comes from the cacao trees, which grows in the tropics. The midges are the main pollinators of these little tiny flowers, which have an earthy mushroom smell. For cocoa trees to bear fruit, it first has to be pollinated by midges. So think of fly each time you eat chocolate. Now, here's a clever trick to survive in the wild. Why don't you pretend to look like a bee? This is called bee mimicry. The actual name of this insect is a hoverfly, also called flower flies or syrphid flies, which feed mainly on nectar and pollen. Many of us have had hoverflies that land on us, and they tickle as they walk across our skin, but they won't hurt you. You might recognize this wasp species by its mud nest that it builds along the sides of our shelters and barns. This mud dauber is an important pollinator of flowers and predators to spiders. After building its mud nest, it will fill the columns with paralyzed spiders that it lays its eggs on. Cool part of the intricate web of life, huh? Let's listen for a bit to the sounds of the insects that we hear at the farm. Now, do you know how to tell the difference between a carpenter bee and a bumblebee? One way is looking at their bottoms, or should we say their abdomens. The carpenter bee has a black bottom instead of a cute little yellow hairy bottom. Did you know that carpenter bees are excellent pollinators of some of our vegetables grown in the gardens, such as eggplant and tomato? Along with, of course, the flowers that you see. They have very powerful thoracic muscles. When they land on the flower blossoms, they kind of turn into a living tuning fork. This sonicates the dry pollen grains out of the flower's anthers, which is called buzz pollination. Now, they can be ingenious in foraging for nectar if they are around those flowers that have the long tubular shapes, which make it too difficult for them to get in. Carpenter bees will actually become nectar robbers. They will use their mouth parts and cut a small slit at the base of the corolla, and they steal away the nectar without even pollinating the flower. Thankfully, this doesn't happen very often. Pollinator populations are declining in the U.S. for several reasons, such as lack of food, habitat loss, climate change, pesticides, and all kinds of other chemicals. So how can we help them? One way is by obviously planting more nectar and pollen sources, more flowers. They need plants that provide nourishment throughout the whole life cycle of the insect, what we call a host plant, where the caterpillars and the larvae and the pupa can live. We need good, clean habitats, which include water and absolutely no chemicals used whatsoever, and some nesting places for the babies. So we hear a lot about helping honeybees, butterflies, and birds, but remember, it's important to take care of our bees and moths, beetles, and wasps too. Thanks again for visiting us here at Chisholm Historic Farmstead and learning a little bit about our unloved pollinators. Remember to observe wildlife from a distance, so we don't want to disturb them. They've got a busy job to do. Thanks a lot and hope to see you out here at the farm. Take care.